Hello, everybody. If you're here, then you've reached Let's Talk News. And you've reached a pre-recorded version because right now I am on a plane or getting ready to be on a plane, traveling. So I will, though, be in the comments while we talk together about what's going on in these United States, which is absolute insanity. I'm sorry if my eyes look a little weird. I don't know where to look when I'm doing this. Usually I have, directions in the screen and I don't. But anyway, enough about that. So I thought that the shooting yesterday in Minnesota has been talked to death, although there is some video out there of, and I'll see if I can find it and put it up here, of the officer actually being hit by the SUV. But just like always, the news media is spinning this as if it's somehow the officer's fault and not the protester agitator's fault. And that, law enforcement only has to be abided by if they're Capitol Police on January 6, 2021, and if Congress is is afraid. Everybody else does not have to respect law enforcement anywhere, right? Because it's clear the only law enforcement officers that these leftist Dems have ever lauded were those in the Capitol on January 6, 2021, including the one that shot Ashley Babbitt through a door. But at the end of the day, it's Trump's ICE, it's Trump's law enforcement action. So there's problems with it. And nobody in the news media wants to talk about the fact that you cannot declare yourself a sanctuary state and still be abiding by the Constitution and the constitutional republic of the United States. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a state being able to act contrary to the United States Constitution and then claiming that they're all law-abiding citizens. Nope, doesn't work that way. And I think that right now we've all had it up to here. And if you're not one of those that sees through this charade that the leftist Democrats and their bed buddies, the fourth estate, the news media, legacy news media, are pulling on the American public, then you're just a useful idiot that the global elitists are using to help undermine America. And you might not notice it now, and you can tell me that I'm part of a cult and that all us conservatives are part of a cult, but the difference between us and you useful idiots out there who want to support the leftist Democrat agenda, you want to know what the difference is? The difference is that when Joe Biden was president, as much as we didn't like it, we didn't try to physically undermine him because we knew that undermining the sitting president of the United States, whether we did not believe he got there legitimately until the election was certified, and then it became legitimate, right? Because you could cheat and steal and do anything. And that would be cheating and stealing. But once Congress says certified president of the United States, then they are the body. They are the body, along with the Electoral College, first, and then Congress. They certify the election, and then every citizen, every American, every patriot has to recognize that that person is president, whether it was legitimate or not. Because once an election is certified, it's certified. And that's part of the process. See, Trump is a legitimate president, whether you like it or not. But you, leftist Democrat lunatics, want to undermine him. And if you undermine a certified president of the United States who Congress voted to certify, then what you're doing is you're undermining every single American, whether they voted for him or not. Because once a president is a certified president, they speak for the country, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, it's okay, because you could do a Rosie O'Donnell or an Ellen DeGeneres. You could leave. Because if you don't, here's a wonderful thing about America and actually living in the 21st century. You can travel. You can get on a plane, get a visa, apply to live somewhere else for the next 3 years. If you, or we could have done it, right? The people who didn't like Biden could have done it. I chose to stay because I thought that it made more sense for me to be here and active, helping to keep America solid and to stopping the undermining of America in whichever way I could. And that was helping other conservatives get elected. That was making sure that I had a show that watched everything Biden was doing and called him out on it. I didn't undermine him, but I said when things were wrong. And I said what should be done. I also said when things were right, which were very, very rarely, but when it was right, it was right. And you give kudos to it. Like what he did with the diabetes medicine. That was fantastic. The moves that he started to make towards drugs and the reduction of drug prices were good moves. The thing is that like most times that Democrats try to solve a problem, it's usually of their making, and they usually don't go for the root cause of the problem. And the root cause of the problem was that we did not have most favored nation status. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on with Venezuela and President Trump and Colombia and Russia and all of this. Because, once again, hypocrisy, right? Same as Ashley Babbitt or Renee Good, hypocrisy. And we're going to go towards the hypocrisy of what's going on with the Democrats when it comes to Venezuela and the fact that they're trying to make it like Trump is some sort of madman. All right, so let's just break it down quickly, and we're going to show videos. Okay, did you hear that the Delcey Rodriguez in Venezuela has all of a sudden come to her senses and has decided that she's going to cooperate with the United States and that she is going to sell oil exclusively to the United States, and that Trump is going to sell that oil and it's going to benefit American people and the people of Venezuela? Did you hear that? If not,
we looked at this in the first term. It didn't come to pass. It has here in the second term. Can I just begin by asking you, what about the Cubans? The military, the secret police, they kind of run the country. It's going to be, I think, one of the most difficult parts of this story. And I wanted to ask you, from your vantage point as an insider, what do we do about these Cubans who've been running the place?
Well, Larry, Happy New Year, and that's a very good question. The Cubans need to go, and they need to go now. And if I was a Cuban intelligence officer watching what happened to Maduro, I'd be looking for a one-way ticket back to Havana or to Managua or to Moscow or Beijing and get my rear end out of Venezuela fast as can be, because Delcey Rodriguez has made it pretty clear, the current acting president of Venezuela, Maduro's vice president, that she's going to cooperate with Trump, and there's no place in Venezuela for the Cubans. They've ruined that country, and they need to get out.
Now, Ms. Rodriguez was, her communist self yesterday, but then she last night changed her tune. Okay, that's important. It sounds like
she's a quick study, Larry.
All right, she's a quick study. I hope she's a quick learner. But do you think that, look, Mr. Trump has threatened, if need be, a second wave. And then when he says things like that, I'm not worried about the Chinese. There's a small amount in there, and he's going to sell oil to China. The others, Iran, Hezbollah, I think you would agree, relatively small influences. But the Cuban influence, now, we can cut off their oil. We can embargo their oil, so that would really damage them, because that Venezuelan oil has been sustaining Cuba. But I'm just sort of hung up on this. We encountered this in the first term. I'm sure it's gotten worse in the last 4 or 5 years. Do you negotiate? Do you think Cuba will say we're just going to get up and leave, or do you think military force will be necessary?
Well, I hope military force will not be necessary, and I think the message has to go to the Cubans very, very clearly, and I think Marco Rubio is the perfect person to deliver that message in Spanish to the Cubans, to his own people. His parents are native of Cuba. And to call the Cuban leadership, this guy Chanel, who's taken over from the Castros, and tell them, get your guys out of Venezuela. They're going to leave Venezuela one way or the other. And Donald Trump has shown that he always gives people a chance. He gave the Iranians a chance to stop their nuclear program. They told him to stuff it, and we saw it. Then he stopped it for them. He gave Maduro chances to leave Venezuela and go to Moscow or Beijing or Havana. Maduro didn't, and now he's in a jail cell in Brooklyn. And so the Cubans are going to get a chance to go home and leave Venezuela to the Venezuelan people. Cuba has basically colonized Venezuela. I mean, their secret police, the Cuban Gestapo, has been torturing Venezuelans for 20 years. They take them to these dungeons and torture them and treat them very, very badly. President Trump won't put up with that. And frankly, the Venezuelan people now that they've got some hope with President Trump on the people's side, he always takes the side of the people, just like with Iran. He takes the side of the Iranian people. He's taking the side of the Venezuelan people. He wants to make them rich, safe, and healthy again. And now that the Venezuelan people know that he's on their side, I wouldn't want to be a Cuban walking around the streets of Venezuela with...
Oh, did you hear that Colombian President Petro, who said he was going to pick up his gun again and fight for Colombia against America if was necessary? He gave a call to Trump the other day and said, listen, let me explain the whole drug thing and blah, 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 blah. And can we meet? And, Trump graciously said, yeah. So he's headed to the White House.
On the international stage, inviting Colombia's president to the White House after a call focusing on issues like Colombia's handling of the war on drugs.
Wow, that's a big change. He called, they spoke for an hour. This comes as the South American country prepares for a potential wave of Venezuelan refugees following the capture of Nicolas Maduro.
Steve Harrigan joins us live from a key crossing on Colombia's border with Venezuela. Steve.
Ainsley, this is a pretty remarkable turnaround. Just days ago, the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, was saying that he himself was ready to take up a gun and defend Colombia against the United States if necessary. He posted, "I vowed not to touch a weapon again since the 1989 peace pact. But for the homeland, I will take up arms again that I do not want." Instead, he called President Trump yesterday. President Trump posted on Truth Social about that phone call, writing, "It was a great honor to speak with the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, who called to explain the situation of drugs and other disagreements that we've had. I appreciated his call and tone and look forward to meeting with him in the near future." So Trump invited him to the White House, and afterwards, Petro, who was ready to fight against the U.S. just days ago, posted a picture of an American bald eagle cuddling, hugging with a jaguar. That's his own personal symbol. So he's come a long way in just 48 hours.
And then the pièce de résistance is, do you remember how the Dems always say that Trump was Putin's puppet? Well, there were a couple of oil tankers coming out of Venezuela going to Russia to bring oil to Russia, and we confiscated those.
I'm Diana Macedo. Let's get right to breaking news. The U.S. military says it has now seized a second Venezuela-linked ship in international waters. U.S. Southern Command says it took control of a sanctioned ship conducting what it's called illegal activities, or illicit activities, rather, in the Caribbean this morning. Earlier, the U.S. European Command said it had seized another oil tanker in the North Atlantic. The U.S. sanctioned that ship in 2024 for allegedly carrying Hezbollah-owned cargo and providing support to Iran. It's also suspected of being part of Russia's so-called shadow fleet used to avoid sanctions. Now, sources tell ABC News the Trump administration plans to oversee the sale of Venezuela's oil indefinitely.
Putin put down the warning. Don't do it. Don't do it. But Trump did it. So what does all this mean? Donald Trump is making sure that our enemies and the people, the big barking dogs, Russia, China, Iran, Colombia, others who have all banded together against America, that they know that he's not playing games. See, Putin had his opportunity. He could have certainly, decided to negotiate and stop the war in the Ukraine, but he didn't do it. He thought he was playing Trump for a fool. But the fact is that now Trump has choked off his oil supply. And he can't do a damn thing about it because he doesn't have the money or the troops to go against America. So, Trump is just saying, listen, I give you every opportunity. Same as he gave every opportunity to Maduro to leave. Go to your friends. Go to Russia. Go to Iran. Go anywhere else. But you can't stay in Venezuela. But Maduro didn't want to, he thought Trump was bullshitting. So Trump flexed his muscle. But the fact that Trump is cutting off oil to Venezuelan oil, to China and to Russia and to Cuba and to Iran, because they were doing all these back channel things. And unless you really think globally, you've got to think on a global stage, like these globalists who want, socialist, globalist nation world. You have to think like them because they're the real threat here. And Trump is thinking like them. And what he's done is he's blocked. And he's making sure that Russia doesn't have money to continue on with Ukraine. And without oil and money, Russia's screwed, right? Russia has its own oil, but apparently cannot pump it fast enough to, support what's going on in Ukraine. And also, Trump has also said, you cannot buy Russian oil because if you do, then the United States is going to have a real problem with you. I don't know what's going on in my house. I'm sure you hear my dog in the background. We've got fighter jets because we live really close to the Air Force Base. So we've got fighter jets up above us. I'm guessing that they're doing maneuvers in case they have to go to South America or to Venezuela. So that's interesting. But the dogs are going crazy because they're rattling the windows. It's interesting. But I digress. So Trump is making sure that our allies know that he's not playing games, that this whole bullshit that was going on with, the EU saying, and the United Nations saying, Russia's the bad guy, we got to stop the war in Ukraine and yada, yada, yada. But then they were buying Russian oil, which gave money to Putin, and it just made absolutely no sense. Trump's fixing that. He's leveling that field. He's fixing that field. He's making it make sense. He's telling the bad guys that, sorry, you can't be the bad guys anymore. You can, but you got to have to do it by yourselves, individually. You can't band together against the United States. We're not going to let you. And you can't backdoor shit. And, oh, by the way, the people that were in charge of the United States before, that were winking and nodding and saying, yeah, you're sanctioned. Yeah, we got a $20 million bounty on your head. They're gone. They're gone. And they've been replaced by the guy that says, oh, you're sanctioned? We're taking your oil. We're taking your tanker. Oh, you have a $20 million bounty on your head? Well, why shouldn't we just go get it? And they go in the middle of the night and they take the guy out and now they bring him to justice. So what's happening here, what we're all seeing is Trump unraveling the globalists' desire for one world controlled by one group. And that group is socialists. And they want the world to be one big Venezuela is what they want them to do. And Trump is saying, absolutely no. You do whatever you want to do, but America, no, we're the big dogs. So let's touch on the Greenland thing, okay? People are saying, oh, Trump's out of his mind that he wants Greenland and blah, 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 blah. Listen, Greenland, Denmark, they're our allies. But if they're our allies, why are they letting Russian and Chinese ships all over the place?
Donald Trump is openly discussing buying Greenland. The idea has rattled Denmark, shocked Europe, and raised fears of military force. Greenland says it's not for sale, and Denmark says its sovereignty must be respected. But Trump and his national security team are actively discussing options to acquire the territory, including a possible purchase. Trump argues that Greenland is vital for U.S. security.
Well, that's something that's currently being actively discussed by the president and his national security team. And I would point out that the acquisition of Greenland by the United States is not a new idea. This is something that presidents dating back to the 1800s have said is advantageous for America's national security. The president has been very open and clear with all of you and with the world that he views it in the best interest of the United States to deter Russian and Chinese aggression in the Arctic region. And so that's why his team is currently talking about what a potential purchase would look like.
Well, Trump says the island is key to countering Russia and China in the Arctic. The region is becoming more militarized as ice melts due to global warming and new routes open up. Well, the White House insists diplomacy comes first, but it has refused to rule out the use of force. Meanwhile, Greenland's foreign minister has said the US and Greenland need each other on Arctic security. But she hopes that talks will help normalize relations, not escalate tensions. Denmark has warned that any invasion would destroy NATO and the post-war security order. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also stepped in. He says he will meet Danish officials next week. Greenland's government will also take part, but Rubio has not softened Washington's position. He said that gaining control of the territory has always been Trump's intent.
Why is the administration not taking Denmark's offer to discuss the situation in Greenland? And
I'll be meeting with them next week.
But will you take military intervention off the table?
I'm not here to talk about Denmark or military intervention. I'll be meeting with them next week. We'll have those conversations with them then. And but I'm not having anything further to add to that today.
Why are they parked in their ports? If they were truly our allies, they'd say, yeah, no, we don't want to be in the middle of it. They'd be Switzerland, right? They'd go, take your boats and put them somewhere else. But what we're seeing happening in Greenland should be proof to the entire world that there is a cabal going on. All right? There is these globalists want either a communist, socialist, whatever, communist regime. They want an authoritarian regime running the world. They're going to sell it to people by saying that they're going to be socialized. Everybody will be cared for. Everybody will be equal. Everybody will have the same worldwide. Because that's the lie that they sell every single time. Before socialism turns into communism, turns into authoritarianism and a dictator. Every single time. And the United States was playing in with that. We were apologizing ourselves into communism. We were apologizing ourselves into being the weakest link in the world. And if you have eyes, you'll see that. And if you have eyes, you'll see that. So I'm sure that Denmark, Greenland, and that whole area there, they're probably very vexed. Because they're probably Obama and Biden have been in on this. Or really, Biden hasn't been in on anything. So now Trump is unraveling all the groundwork that they laid. And then putting people in charge like Mamdani, right? Getting the Democrat socialists in charge in different cities around America. And remember, not too long ago, we had some video of AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar being auditioned for the job of Congress and money being put behind them because they were going to help move this socialist message. They're useful idiots. Don't be a useful idiot. Don't be. You got to get your nose out of your phone and you got to get your nose out of, a small media focus, meaning you can't watch and read just legacy media. You have to read some independence and you have to, more importantly, read some international media. Watch Al Jazeera, watch our enemies, watch broadcasts, watch the BBC, watch others, because you can see the lie, how it's regurgitated here and then there and then over on this side and whatever. And then once in a while, you'll have like Australian news will break through with some actual facts. and some Italian news and some Polish news. And all of that can be, let me tell you something, you can, if you don't speak the language, you can get it translated. We're in an amazing time in the world where we can get information from everywhere. And it just amazes me that our young people refuse to take that information. They're so lazy that they're not willing to look. All they want to do is Google. And oh, by the way, there's something I want to tell you about Google. For those of you who still use it. And I do, because I like to see what it returns. But if you really want Google to give you answers that are not tailored to you, you have to Google in what's it called now? Crying out loud. You got to hide your incognito. You have to Google in the incognito setting. So on the right side of your screen, there are dots, and it drops down, and it will say go incognito, and the screen will go black. Like it'll be a dark screen, but it'll still be a Google screen. You put your search in there, and what that means is it erases all your preferences. So when it delivers back, it's going to deliver back like somebody that it doesn't know. And you'll see a whole different set of answers to your searches than what Google has set up for you. If you're a conservative, Google will set up for you answers that are left-leaning. They'll hide all the conservative answers, or most, back on page 100, so that you think that the way you think is not the right way to think. And for the left-leaning people, it will give you the same left-leaning answers, because they want to reinforce your left-leaning thinking. This is how we've become, these young people have become so left-leaning, and us old people are sitting there going, what? And when we talk to them, and they come up with these crazy, crazy scenarios, we don't understand where they're getting this information from, because we're not exposed, or we're not in that same echo chamber with them. So, if you want to Google something, use incognito. Okay, so we've gone through it all. And probably it's going to be less than half an hour. Like I said, I'll be in the comments, and drop some comments in here. I'm sorry that I can't physically be with you because I'm up in the air right now, literally in an airplane or in the airport, one or the other. I'll be back. I'm traveling back home Sunday. So I should be home in time for the show. I think I land somewhere around 7. So it's going to be interesting. Sunday's show might very well be on the fly, and probably have no videos, but we'll talk. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to sunny Florida. Hopefully on Sunday I'll have a tan. Have a great weekend, everybody. And thanks for watching, and thanks for communicating.